Okay, thought I'd make a little video of the life of this RV since it became mine. Again, it's a 99 leisure travel. I actually have owned it for less than a year, and I found it on the internet. When I first thought I was going to do this, I was thinking of getting a Class C, and when I did some research, I didn't want that gas mileage because I'm planning on doing a lot of traveling in it, so I wanted something that did a little better. And I was looking at a lot of the road treks, which are nice, but I found this. I live in Ohio, southern Ohio, and I found this one online in Springfield, Missouri. So I got talking to them. I got a really good price on it. Because remember, something like this brand new, nice, glitzy, shiny, everything like that, are over $100,000, and there's just no way. And I got this well below that. I got a really good deal on it. I drove out there to pick it up sight unseen, which is a little scary to do. But I also got lucky that I found a one-way rental car that worked out really well. It was cheap. Usually they're really expensive. So I went there with them knowing, okay, if I get there and it's not what I want, I'll turn around and go back. So when I first got there, everything checked out nice. It was fine, ran nice. Then I took it out for a test drive, and it was shaking like crazy. And I was like, well, we got a problem. I think I don't want this. I said, well, maybe it's tires. Maybe the front tires are cupped. So we took it back, and they had their mechanic look at it, and he thought that's what it was. So, and I bought it at Camping World in Springfield, Missouri. And they were awesome. If you're ever looking, they're a good place. The people were wonderful. So they went out and they bought brand new tires for the front and put them on it. And I test drove it again, and it drove fine. So I really do still 7-8 months later, that was the problem. It runs great. And I know that a lot of people are afraid of buying something used, but just the value is there. But I figured after this amount of time I might share some of the issues I've had since I've owned it. So I'll pause for a second, and I'm going to move and show you a couple things. Okay, when I first bought this, my plan was, okay, I'm going to get it home and I'm going to have everything gone over to make sure everything's running fine. Well, when I bought it, it ended up late with the whole tire thing I was just talking about, so I drove straight back 600 and some miles, and I drove it pretty hard. I was 75 in it most of the way back, and it ran great. The only problem I had was that I lost a hubcap on the way. No biggie. Then I go on my first trip because I'm excited and didn't have everything gone over, and what I've been showing you this whole time, that's a master brake cylinder. I was going through Cincinnati, 5 o'clock on a Friday, rush hour traffic, and the master cylinder went out and lost my brakes. It was a little scary, but I got it pulled over, tightened it enough to limp it back, and canceled my trip, obviously. Then I got really lucky. If you're ever in Cincinnati, through marriage, I have now a mechanic connection, and when I took it to him, he fixed the master cylinder, and I had him replace every hose, every fluid, everything like that. Had him swap it out. Cost a little bit, cost me $600 in parts, but because I had the hookup, I only paid $100 for labor, and as anybody knows, usually you pay more for labor than you do for parts. Ever since then, I have not had one problem with it driving. It's strong, it runs great. We'll move to the next problem. Okay, if you can see above the driver's door, I had an issue and I saw it when I bought it, right behind the coffee pot, and I'll go in and show you real quick. You could tell that there had been water damage, and I always thought it was because of the coffee pot. Well, once I finally got into it and did some research, I found out that the caulking along the seal up here had been leaking, and probably for a while. So I ripped all that out, bought a $2 tube of caulk, replaced it, hasn't leaked once since. Next thing. Okay, this problem was actually very confusing. When it would rain, I'd get some water inside, but even if it didn't rain a lot or after it stayed dry, I still got a couple spots that would get water. And found out, well, I'll show you first. Let me open up the door. I was getting water pooling right inside the door, right in here, right at the footstep, And then down here where you step in, it would be wet on the carpet. And then when you go inside, back here on the floor, right in this area, I'd have water. Couldn't figure it out. So finally got thinking, okay, it's following some kind of tube. You know, it's following a line of water wherever it's coming from. Well, what it ended up being is this is a refrigerator. And in the bottom of the refrigerator, there's a drain, because obviously water and stuff can get in here. Well, one of these had been put on, I think the top one had been put on upside down. And then when we took it all off, and I looked down in there, where it drained was clogged. So water was pooling up, and then what it was doing, it was following the power lines up by the front where you would come in. It's following the power line up to the dash to get power, and it's following the other power to where the shore power comes in. So got that swapped out, cleaned it out, and it hasn't leaked since. So that's something that you want to check every now and then, because apparently those can clog up, and then the water, you know, it follows the path of least resistance, and it was following the wires back. No other damage was done. Everything works fine. Thing I had was this battery bay compartment. I made a video and posted on that this was kind of rusted up, and it was just because it was old. I took it all apart, took everything out, sandblasted it, and painted it with Rust-Oleum, and it's fine now. When I had lost that hubcap, I ended up losing the other one, because when they put the 2 new tires on, both of those, they didn't get the hubcaps on it right. And you wouldn't think much, but they can be expensive. I found eBay 4 of them for 60 bucks. Got so lucky because they were running, I was finding them like 50 bucks a piece. So I have 2 extra now. The only other thing that was weird was behind this TV that is obviously a replacement TV, it had been done by themselves, and it was just a rat's nest of wires and stuff, and got that all fixed and cleaned up. It always worked, but it was just weird wiring because they had it wired to the coach battery. So now if I'm parked, I run it off a power strip if I ever use that. This RV honestly was owned by a little old couple. I know everybody always tells you that, but one of my other problems was getting it registered, because when I got back to Ohio and tried to register it, they noticed that both the original owners' names were not on the title when it was transferred to me. Turned out because, sadly, the wife had passed away, and I had to get a death certificate, and she was quite old. So it was a little old couple, and this sucker runs great. So to sum it up, I know that a lot of people, like I'm saying, this is the history of mine, and when you really think about it, I haven't had any problems. Little water issues, which are normal, and buying a used one just makes so much sense. And luckily for me, I'm kind of mechanical, just not great, but I have some connections that I can at least know. I don't want to not pay for anything, but I want to make sure that it's done right. And as we know, when you're dealing with a garage, man, you can't always trust those people. But I got this for just under $16,000, and like I said, brand new, they're $100,000. So if you take care of them, do your oil changes, do all that good stuff, you can keep them well. Thanks. I hope this is interesting at least.